You can call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Jake Matthews takes on Francisco Prado to open up the UFC 312 pay-per-view main card this Saturday. And this is going to be a firefight, I think, on the feet between two pretty young guys. Jake Matthews been in the UFC for a long time, but Francisco Prado, early 20s, got a few fights in the UFC so far, kind of taking up a step up in competition here against a guy like Jake Matthews. This is going to be at welterweight. Jake Matthews, I believe he used to fight a lightweight back in the day, but he's been at welterweight for a while, whereas Francisco Prado, he has been fighting at lightweight, at least for his last 3 fights that he's had in the UFC. Now moving up to welterweight to take on Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews will be the bigger guy. He's 5'11" with a 73-inch reach versus Francisco Prado, who is 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. So he's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage, which I think is going to be a pretty big factor in this fight. Francisco Prado, very fun guy to watch, very exciting. Primarily a striker, will shoot takedowns to mix it up, but really wants to keep it on the feet and throw hands. Very Mike Tyson-esque type of style, kind of bobs and weaves and throws big hoops, big looping hooks. We can call them hoops. But very good technically on the feet. Throws really good leg kicks. A lot of the time you can see him hurting people with his calf kicks. Very tough guy. Been in a few wars in his day. I'm trying to think of the last fight that he was in. I think it was with Daniel Zellhuber. Daniel Zellhuber was really putting it on him in the stamp department. Very crispy jab, cut up Francisco Prado, but never really seemed to deter him or discourage him. He was going for the kill the entire time, but did end up losing a decision. Before that, knocked out Otman Zaitar, put him on the ground, got him out of there by ground and pound. Kind of an early stoppage, but was kind of putting it on him. I don't think it was a terrible stoppage, but before that, went to the distance with Jamie Malarkey. And not a terrible performance. Again, this guy's pretty young. He's like 20, what is he, 22 now? So fighting a lot of these guys that have a lot of experience really early in his career and having a really good showing for himself. Jake Matthews, speaking of young, been in the UFC since 2014. He's 30 years old, so he's been in the UFC since he was 20. Can't even count how many fights he has. Absolutely ridiculous the amount of experience that he has at this stage in his career. Started in the Ultimate Fighter. A lot of good wins. Wagner Rocha ended up subbing him. Lost to Kevin Lee early in his career. Beat Jiang Lang Lee. Beat Diego Sanchez. Lost to Sean Brady. Lost to Matthew Semmelsberger. Lost to Michael Morales recently, but looked really good in that showing. If you don't know who Michael Morales is, look him up. He's a 17-0, 25-year-old prospect who's looking really good. And then most recently beat Phil Rowe. Jake Matthews, I think just with his experience in the game, he's got twice as many fights as Francisco Prado, more fights in the UFC than this kid has professionally. I just think he's going to have too much for Francisco Prado. I think Prado's got a bright future. I just think he's kind of one-dimensional. He will shoot takedowns, like I said, but primarily he's striking. He's throwing kicks. He's throwing, decent combinations. Got a lot of power. I just don't think that he's got anything that Jake Matthews hasn't seen before. Jake Matthews has fought any type of fighter, any type of style that you can imagine. There's nothing new that Francisco Prado is bringing to the table for him. So I think he'll be able to game plan against Francisco Prado. Just a very striking, heavy guy. A lot of power, but he's going to be able to keep him at bay with his striking and his 4-inch reach advantage. Jake Matthews, very high-level black belt as well, will shoot takedowns, so he's very well-rounded, and I think that he can win this fight wherever it goes. If it's on the feet, I think he's got more experience. He's just as good technically, just as much power as somebody like Prado. Plus, I think he's going to have the size advantage. So, going to have the size advantage, experience advantage, skill set advantage in this one. So, I'm going to go with Jake Matthews. Also, going to have the home field advantage. That plays a big factor in the UFC. If you haven't noticed, if you didn't watch the Hamdi Abdul Wahab fight last weekend, absolute robbery by the Saudi judges. But Jake Matthews, if it goes to a decision, he's probably going to be there's going to be some bias on the scorecards just with him being the hometown kid coming from Australia. So the odds are minus 220 in favor of Jake Matthews. I like those odds. I feel like those are good. I actually hadn't looked before this fight. I think those are about right. Plus 180 for Francisco Prado. So Prado's got a shot. It's a puncher's chance. I don't think he's gonna just put volume on Jake Matthews and beat him up, especially after that last performance I saw against Michael Morales, where he was doing really well, going tit for tat for him with him. And then his last fight with Phil Rowe, who's also very well rounded, he was able to land the bigger punches on the feet, defend the takedowns, reverse them on with the takedowns, get him on the ground, controlling the ground. So I think Jay Matthews has just more ways to win this fight. I don't think he puts away Prado. Prado's not terrible at jiu-jitsu. He has a decent guard game that I've seen, and he's got some submission wins on his record. So I do think this one goes to the scorecards. But I think very, very likely that Jake Matthews will win this one. I think it'll be primarily a stand-up affair. I can see both of them trying to shoot takedowns if it doesn't go their way, or just to kind of mix it up and hopefully open up their striking game. But I do think this one will be fun. I understand why it's the opener to the main card, just because they anticipate this one to be an exciting banger. But I'm going to go with Jake Matthews by decision in this one. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks.